sets me free. Oh Lama, care for me, for I am plagued by turbulent emotions. Protect me, and from the center of my heart rise up compassionate Lama, my only refuge. Oh Lama, without you I would not have seen my true mind. I give up everything to you, for I believe that you will never give up on me. Would you? Oh Lama, care for me, for I am plagued by turbulent emotions. Protect me, and from the center of my heart rise up compassionate Lama, my only refuge. For I am plagued by turbulent emotions. Protect me, and from the center of my heart rise up compassionate Lama, my only refuge. Rise up compassionate Lama, my only refuge.
Just gossiping. Lamalundrup used to say gossiping, not grasshopping, that was grasping. Something else for gossiping. Can't remember the word now. Gossiping. About cough medicine. So I didn't organize myself. I blame Lillian. Okay, we need to do some prayers. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation of merits of practicing generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulations of merit of practicing generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation of merits of practicing generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness which is without suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from both attachment and hatred, holding some close and others distant. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence, and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of others to the great enlightenment. This ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon, I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn. I suppose you could put some sort of tune to it. It needs a tune, doesn't it? I miss the tunes, I must say. So, are we on a sidetrack? We were on the main highway of Lamrim. We're on a sidetrack, aren't we? Lillian. Lillian says definitively yes, because now I'm going off in another direction. I'm going to start talking about thought transformation. I wanted to use the text called The 7 Points of Mind Training. This is Geshe Chikawa Yeshidoji, 1101 to 1175 are the dates. You better write that down because there will be an examination later. So there's the text. If you want the text, we've uploaded it. It has preliminaries, the main practice, etc., etc. So then I was thinking, why am I doing this? Why not just continue on with the Lamrim and finish it? In the past, I've talked about 8 verses of thought transformation, but it's short, isn't it? It's limited. I've talked about 37 practices of a Bodhisattva. There's some thought transformation in there. My thinking was this, that when I was, so I'm going back to my youth. So 400 years ago, as Carl would say, in my teenage years, I had some problems with my father. And so I left home when I was young. And of course, that's not easy to do. I think I was 16 when I left home. I wanted to be happy and I wanted to avoid suffering. This is natural, right? We all want happiness, we don't want suffering. So I didn't have a philosophy at that time. And some years later, I think the main person I got interested in was Krishnamurti. So I used to enjoy reading Krishnamurti, and you know, I'd run a bath and sit in the bath for 2 hours reading Krishnamurti, and I think, yes, that's the answer to my problem. And then the next day, couldn't really remember what the answer to the problem was. I feel that he talks a lot about emptiness, and so that, you know, the problem is empty. But this is a high level practice, and we're not. I mean, you may be, but I'm not high level practitioner. But if you're a high level practitioner, okay, you meditate on emptiness, you can solve all your problems. You don't have problems. But for ordinary people, we have problems and we want solutions. So there's the creation of the problem, and then there's the creation of the solution. So after Krishnamurti, I started to think about what I believed in. And from when I was very young, I believed in karma, rebirth, the Buddhist things, but I didn't know there was a Buddha. Then I came to the Buddhist teachings, and I think that this is probably common amongst Westerners, is that we come into Buddhist teachings treating it like a subject. So I was thinking this morning, how do we think about Buddhism? Do we think of it in the same way that we think of English, geography, history, that we study it, we memorize something, you know, from English, to be, not to be, that is the question, you know, blah, blah, blah. So you know, you can be very smart, isn't it? Or Confucius said, or this person said, you can sort of memorize something and you can say it and then seem very smart, but it's not something that you put into practice. So how we learn in the West is learning. What we do is we study, we learn, we can do some memorizing, we have maybe formulas, you know, 4 times 3 = 12, but it's not something to put into practice. So when I came into Buddhism, I think I approached it in the same way that I was approaching these other subjects that we have at school. You study them, you know about them, but it's not something that you put into practice. Until I got very sick in Delhi, and had to have this injection of radioactive whatever, and the lady who was looking after me, I'm sure you've heard the story before, so I'm just giving you the very short version. The lady who was looking after me said, "So what do you do in India?" And I said, "I'm studying meditation and Buddhism." And she said, "And now is the time to put it into practice." And it totally shocked me because of the way she said it. And I thought and thought about it afterwards. And I'd heard 8 verses of Thought Tantrum and 7 points and all these different teachings. I'd heard them, but hadn't actually understood how to put it into practice. And if you don't understand that, then you have problems, and you do one of 2 things. You can act out the problem, so reacting, creating more karma to experience more problems, or you suppress. So one of 2 things: suppress or express. If you're suppressing, then a big problem for your body, but also a big problem for your mind, because things build up, isn't it? You suppress, you suppress, you suppress, and this negative energy builds up. Then the other way, expressing, the boss says you're completely useless, and you say, "Yeah, you're useless too." And they say, "Bye-bye, you've lost your job." So neither of those work. And Buddha knew this. Buddha knew these 2 extremes don't work. There needed to be teachings on a third way, a third a third path, if you like, the Dharma path. It's your karma that you're experiencing this problem. And if you're not careful in your reaction to the problem, you're creating another problem or many more problems. So that's where Lojong, thought transformation, comes in. The way that you need to think is that perfection is inside you. Your Buddha potential is present, but it's obscured by karma and delusion. So the awakening mind, or the awakening heart, or the awakening Buddha, whatever you want to call it, the potential is there. No need to look outside, no need to look somewhere else for it. It's already there. But we need to encourage it, we need to actualize it. And by practicing thought transformation, Lojong, then actually you're pointing your mind in the direction of enlightenment, of the awakening mind. So it's not a subject to be studied. You know, we give you all these points and then you can memorize them. And then we ask you, what's point number 15? And you say, blah, blah, blah. And point number 32, blah, blah, blah. And we think, wow, she's really got it. You know, she understands this subject. It's not like that. It's being aware of your mind and the thoughts that appear, the obstacles that appear, the negativities that appear, the judgments, the criticisms, everything that appears within your mind. And instead of abandoning your seat, you stay with it. You don't run away. So even though you're being divorced, the dog's leaving, the cat doesn't want to be with you anymore, you've lost your job, there's no money. Even though it seems like this is the worst possible time, that's the time when you've got to maintain your seat. That's the time when you've got to be aware of your mind. This awakening mind, this enlightenment potential is within you, like I said. And the analogy is a very poor person living in a shack, you know, with virtually nothing, with mud floors, virtually no food, no nothing. Has under the ground a pot of gold. Under that bed, in the ground, there's a pot of gold. But they don't know. They don't know it's there. So you as a Dharma practitioner need to know the potential that you're sitting with. Instead of sitting there thinking, oh, I'm useless, I'm overweight, or I'm too thin, I'm too tall, I'm too short, nobody loves me, everybody loves me. You know, whichever way we're thinking, you can think, I really want friends. So you get lots of friends and they're constantly calling you, come out, go there, go there. And then you start thinking, oh, this is driving me crazy. I've got no time to myself. And then when you're too much alone, you're thinking, I'm too much alone. When you've got no money, you think no money is a problem. When you've got a lot of money, You think having a lot of money is a problem. Now, where am I going to invest it? Certainly not in Australia, where the interest rates are 0.05 or something, you know. So what will I do with my money? And which bank is good? And who could go bankrupt? And could I lose my money? So, you know, whichever way it is, whether it's too little, too much, we can worry. And this is the projecting mind, the sort of daydreaming mind, isn't it? Not sitting with things as they are, but thinking of things as they should be. We sit on the cushion and we can create in our minds this perfection of how things should be, the daydreaming mind, right? So you sit, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. So if I had Botox, I'd be better looking. And if I did this and if I did that, and daydream, blah, 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 blah. And we're creating these storylines within our head that we then want to live by. But if we don't have the karma for it, we can't live by it. So we're creating stress and anxiety. You understand? What we're doing is we're creating a story, then we're trying to live by the story. But if the situation, if the conditions and the karma is not there, then that story is not going to happen. So you're creating your own stress, your own anxiety, but thinking that it's actually happening around you. The situation is not in accordance with what you expected. So therefore, they are giving me stress. They are giving me anxiety. The Buddhist idea is it's happening the other way around. The stress and anxiety doesn't have to exist. It exists only in your way of thinking. So let's face it, now is a time of stress and anxiety, isn't it? We want COVID to finish. We want, we want no lockdown. When we get to 80% vaccination, things will be much better. You know, we're told all these sort of daydreaming stories, but nobody's quite sure it's going to happen. So now I think is more of a time of daydreaming because of the limitations of COVID, of the sickness and what's happening around us. Now is the time when we more need to know ourselves, need to sit on the cushion and know who and what we are, the starting point of where we are, so that we can move in the direction of enlightenment, of the enlightened mind, the awakened heart, whatever you want to call it. We need to know the direction, but in order to know the direction, you need to know who you are. Not just to know who you are, but to be kind towards who you are. So in order to be kind to others and have compassion for others, you know, we keep talking about Bodhichitta. We want to develop Bodhichitta. We are Bodhichitta. We have Bodhichitta, but it's obscured. The potential's there. It needs to be revealed. It needs to be allowed. So you don't develop bodhicitta by this heavy hand that we can often apply to ourselves, you know, internally when we're sitting there and, you know, this critical mind comes. Oh, you can't become enlightened, or you couldn't be a bodhisattva, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. You know, this sort of heavy-handed attitude that we can apply to ourselves, and then is the limitation to being kind and compassionate to other people. The limitation towards other people. So in order for you to become a bodhisattva, you first need to apply kindness and understanding towards yourself. Not saying, oh, you're angry, you're impatient, you're not generous, you're not, but that's all fine. It doesn't mean saying like that. That's not kindness. It's not saying anything bad where you're harming others. Oh, it doesn't matter. Just pat yourself on the back and say, oh, it's all fine. That's not kindness. Kindness, I think, is looking at that self-judgmental, self-critical mind and understanding where it's coming from. And then being able to sit on the seat and be able to stay on the seat with kindness and be able to let those judgments go. Because you'll never be beautiful or handsome enough. You'll never be rich enough. You'll never have enough. If you follow that sort of greedy, grasping mind, you'll never have enough. The judgments will always come, saying more, 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 more. So the kindness is understanding that, perceiving it, sitting with it, and being able to let it go, being able to release it, as opposed to grasping onto it and it becoming part of your operating system that says, I want more, I must have more. So, in this text, the first point, it says the preliminaries, first train in the preliminaries. So then, why the preliminaries? The preliminaries that they mention are the Lamrim. We have the Dharma practitioner of the lower scope, the medium scope, the higher scope. I've mentioned this before. I haven't talked about guru devotion yet, but human rebirth, the difficulty and the meaning of human rebirth, death, impermanence, the sufferings of the lower realms, going for refuge, actions and their results, karma. These are the meditations that you need to meditate on in order to get yourself grounded. The meditations, I think, are all on the website. I've given teachings on this before. There's no point in going over it again, but just to mention, the main thing is the difficulty of obtaining a precious human rebirth. And then many students say, but this is not true. The 7 billion human beings, it's not difficult to obtain a human rebirth at all. Look at India, 1 billion people. So when I was teaching in India, people would say, it's easy to get a human rebirth. There's so many people in India. But what it's talking about is having the conditions, having the mind, those two things coming together where you want to practice Dharma. That's the rarity. So you have a perfect human body without impairments. If you were deaf, if you were blind, you've got some hindrances to practicing Dharma. It doesn't stop you completely, but it makes things more difficult for you. So if you don't have those problems, if you don't have those hindrances, and you have the leisure, you're not living in Rajasthan where you've got to walk for hours to find firewood and water and then walk back and then go back again and come back again. I mean, you're not surviving. You're not hanging on a cliff. Then you must meditate on how precious this life is, because it's going to finish. Inevitably, it's going to finish. So, then the meditation is how precious this life is. It's sort of wow, wow, wow. How precious, how special, how incredible. not in an egotistical way, but just in a logical way. If I compare myself to all those who can't practice, they're not actually allowed to practice, then I'm very fortunate. Okay? And not just that, compare yourself to those who do have the leisure, they have human body, but they're just not interested in meditation, in Dharma, like that. So you are the rarity. You're like the star in the daytime sky, something very rare, something very unusual, that you are willing to put time and effort aside in order to do some practice, in order to be a benefit to sentient beings. In this day and age, how incredible, how rare. So you must meditate like this, because in the times when things are difficult, you need this type of meditation in your background to hold you, to stabilize you. I think it's an earthing, a grounding meditation. Okay? And when people used to say to me, it's not difficult to be a human, I used to say, yes, but think about all the places that you could be reborn where you have absolutely no opportunity to hear the Dharma. Just think about that. Because we always think of our present situation where we have heard the Dharma, but think about where you don't hear the Dharma. I mean, there's Dharma centers all around the world, whatever. But you must have created that connection, that karma, to hear the Buddha Dharma and to want to put it into practice. So you people are the rarity. So, that gives you the energy. Then you think, wow, this is incredible. I must do something important with this precious human rebirth. Then the next meditation, but, the but has to come, just like the fingers clicking, another second gone, time passing. Why are we procrastinating? Why are we wasting time? Because time is passing, death is coming. Am I ready for death? Am I prepared? So that's the next meditation. Then, if I'm not prepared at the time of death and I freak out, right? I don't want to go. So I'm freaking out and I'm getting really angry, and then I die. Then the potential is to go to the lower realms. Because of my attitude, because of the way I'm directing my mind with irritability and anger, then at the time of death, that's really going to influence my next rebirth. So then we need to think about the sufferings of the lower realms. So the hell realms, too hot, too cold, hungry ghost realm, can't get enough, and the animal realm, fear, anxiety. We need to think about those realms in the way of a positive fear of something that we don't want to experience, because why would you put yourself in such a horrendous situation? Why would you want that type of suffering? So you do that meditation to create more energy, to be able to get out of samsara, rather than creating causes for samsara. Then the next meditation is going for refuge. So when you've been through those meditations, precious human rebirth, impermanence, death, the lower realms, the sufferings, then you're going to ask yourself, so what can I do to keep myself from those sufferings? How can I keep myself out of those lower realms? And then the answer comes, I need to take refuge. And what I'm taking refuge in is virtue as opposed to non-virtue. So the teachings of Buddha, the 84,000 teachings, to avoid 84,000 delusions, to have antidotes for the delusions, so that you create causes for happier rebirths as opposed to more suffering rebirths. So that's the last meditation of the lower scope, is karma. What I do creates a result. What type of result is it going to be? Is it going to be a suffering result, or is it going to be a happy result? So then you meditate on karma, that am I using my precious human rebirth in the best possible way to create the best possible causes and conditions for happiness in the future. Okay, so that's the lower scope. I'm not going to go into detail because it's already been done. Then the middling beings, not only motivated by a desire to avoid rebirth in the three lower realms, they seek to achieve their complete liberation from the entirety of cyclic existence. So these are the people that think, I want to be free of cyclic existence, but they're not thinking about others. They're just thinking about themselves. So it's the mala and the mantras, me, 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 me. Get me out, get me out. And that's it. So this attitude is superior to that of an inferior being, but it's inferior to the attitude of superior beings, the bodhisattvas. So superior beings wish not only to eliminate the causes of suffering, the mental afflictions, but from their own mental continua, they also want to strive to attain enlightenment, to help all other sentient beings attain liberation from cyclic existence. So the middle scope is the practitioners, the people who are thinking to themselves, yes, I have precious human rebirth, time is passing, I want to avoid the sufferings, I've gone for refuge, I think about karma, I'm fed up of samsara, I really want to get out, I'm tired, I'm fed up, I want to go. And that's all they're thinking. Me, me, me. Just, I want to go. So this is the middle scope. And in the Lamrim, it's not enough. Because there's countless mother sentient beings with karmic connection to you who don't know how to get out, but you do. So you need to use your time and energy for them as opposed to just for you. So, the meditation there is, there's one or many. Which is more important, the one or the many? Obviously, the many. So then you're persuading your mind into not just compassion and love, but great love and great compassion, meaning without limit, wanting to benefit all sentient beings. In short, even if we take rebirth in one of the upper realms, as a human, the demigod, or God, we unavoidably experience the general sufferings of cyclic existence, as well as the sufferings specific to that realm. So if we're an animal, we have animal suffering. Hungry ghosts, we have hungry ghost suffering. The God realm suffering. So wherever we go within samsara, we're going to experience suffering. So then what's the answer? What's the solution? If you see samsara as a problem, then what's the solution to samsara? What should we do? we have a treasure within us, the awakening potential, the awakened, enlightened potential. That potential is there, but if we don't do these meditations, we don't get the energy for the Dharma practice. Because once you start practicing Dharma, then you start to notice more difficulties around you, more obstacles around you. Things start to happen. It seems like everything starts to accelerate. So then you need a way of transforming it. Otherwise, you think, oh, Dharma doesn't work. I've still got all these problems. Then I'll try something else. We just jump from this method to another method to another method. Or maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll try that. So holding on to your seat, the place where you're sitting, being kind to yourself, starting to do the preliminary meditations to prepare the mind for the ability to transform problems. And when that ability becomes difficult, you go back to the kindness and you go back to the preliminaries. The preliminaries are the essential to hold you on the seat. Without that, then the mind training, the thought transformation, I think sometimes it must seem too difficult because you don't have the foundation. You don't have the Lamrim basis. I'm trying to think of an analogy. It's like the garden where you want to plant some seeds or some bulbs in the garden, and the ground's really hard. And so, you go out there and you want to put some seeds or some bulbs in the garden, but you don't dig. You just sit the bulb on top of the hard ground or throw the seeds, keep watering, they rot, nothing happens. Who do you blame? What do you blame? The seeds, the bulb. I'm going to go back and complain to that nursery where I bought those seeds. So you go back to the nursery and you say, you sold me those bulbs. I paid so much money for them. Nothing happened. They didn't flower. They said, did you follow the instructions? Did you dig? No, it's too much trouble. I wanted to go straight for the flowering, straight for the result. But we have to do the preparation before we get the result. We know this with gardening. We have to prepare. So you prepare the ground, you dig, you water, you put compost, you do all these different things in order to get a beautiful result. In the same way, with the Dharma, you need to prepare the ground, the mind, to accept the teachings. If there's no preparation, the mind can't accept those teachings. It seems too difficult for the mind to comprehend that we have to transform something, not reject it, not suppressing it, not acting it out, but that we need to transform it. We need to turn it into the potential for enlightenment. I'm still talking about the preliminaries. As part of the preliminaries, I really think, maybe I'm not going to be popular now, but I think there's something more that we need to do as opposed to just studying the text and knowing the parts of the text and the slogans of the text. I think there's three parts to this. One is basic sitting meditation. So this we call shamatha or vipassana. Not analytical meditation. I mean, I've just told you about the preliminaries, but not that. I think we need to sit with that kindness towards ourselves and no distraction from ourselves so that we get to know ourselves and what we're working with. Because in Tibetan Buddhism, we can keep you busy 24 hours a day. You can do prostrations, you can have prayer wheels, you can do mantras, you can be doing lots and lots of things. But this just sitting, just becoming aware of the thoughts that are appearing in the mind and the projections of the mind, I think this is actually very difficult. I used to talk to people who'd been to the Vipassana center over the hill from Bodhichitta. So there were two centers, one Tibetan and on the other side Goenka. And we talk about what they had to do over there. And, you know, they start like in the middle of the night, you know, some 4 o'clock in the morning or something. And you just sit and you go back to the next session. You just sit, you go back to the next, and they're sitting, I think, for an hour each time. And from the beginning, you're expected to just sit without movement. And this is maybe 15 hours a day for beginners. And a lot of people find this so difficult. The physical is difficult, but also the mental is difficult because it's a mirror for your mind. And instead of having distractions, there's nothing else to do except just sit. And then the mind starts to think, oh, look at that one over there, and look at that one over there. And what time's breakfast? Are we getting breakfast? Do we have breakfast? La, 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 la. And then coming back to the present, the moment that you're supposed to be in, instead of being in the past and instead of being in the future, you're supposed to be in this moment, but we're mostly not in this moment. We're mostly projecting thoughts into the future and into the past. So I think 3 parts to this training, this practice, this sitting meditation with one object. Analytical meditation is not single-pointed meditation. It's an analysis of a point. So I'm not talking about that type of meditation. I'm talking about just single-pointed Shinai, Shamatha, Vipassana, that single-pointed meditation. Then we have the practice of Tonglen, sending out and taking in. All that I wish to keep to myself, I have to give up. I want it for me because it's good. You can have the suffering, I'll have the happiness, right? Tonglen is the other way around. The suffering, give it to me. The happiness, I give it away. So we're training in a different method, in a different way, which is the Dharma way, as opposed to the samsaric way. Why we're in samsara is because we've been doing, I don't know if I can say lentong. I think I used to say lentong. So any suffering, I breathe it out. Any happiness, I keep it to myself. So we can call it lentong instead of tonglen. You know, it's the me practice. That's what's keeping us in samsara. That's why we haven't actualized our potential. That's why we're stuck here. I'm digging a hole in the ground and I'm throwing myself in and I'm saying, who dug that hole? Who threw me in? It's not fair. So we need Tonglen. We need that breathing in the suffering to destroy the suffering. We need breathing out the happiness in order to create the happiness. Then we have slogans. In this practice, there are slogans. And those slogans are pinpointing the klesha, the delusions, the emotional minds, the problems that we create, they're pinpointing what they are. So there are slogans, and you will get to know the slogans. And one idea I had, with the cooperation of somebody close by, is that we make little cards of the slogans, and then people can print them out and then carry them around with them. And then you look at the next one each day, look at another one, look at another one, so that you're cycling through the slogans and getting to know, for instance, jealousy. You think, I'm not a jealous person. I never get jealous. What are they talking about, jealousy? But then one day you realize on a subtle level, you do have jealousy. There is somebody that you envy, that you have jealousy towards. It's not a massive thing. You're not so, I'm jealous, but there's jealousy. It's an underlying problem. So those three things, the basic sitting meditation, Tonglen, and the slogans, those are the three sort of facets, if you like, of this practice that need to go together. So I've been thinking about perhaps leading 3 meditations a week. I have to think about time and how to do it, but I think not video, just audio. And not that it's really necessary to have somebody there leading it, but I think if somebody's there, it's easier because somebody's there leading it. That you're more willing to sit as a group, and it's more powerful as a group, as opposed to just as a recording, and you can switch on the recording, and when you want to, you can stop and go and have a cup of tea and come back and continue the recording. So one idea I had was to think about how I can offer some help with the meditation. The Tonglen, difficult. Difficult for us to practice because it's the opposite of what you want to do. When you're taking on the suffering, the mind, the trained mind for a long, long time, not just this life, but previous lives, is going to be saying, the DNA is going to be saying, you're crazy. What are you doing? Breathing in suffering. This is ridiculous. Breathe out the suffering. And the Dharma mind is saying, no. I've been breathing out the suffering for countless lifetimes and it never worked. I need to do things differently. So that's why you need the preliminaries. You need that Dharma grounding and that refuge to know that you must stick with the formula. If you don't stick with the formula, you're going to go back into samsaric behavior. We need to know what to do. So the Lojong practice itself, I think, without the single-pointed meditation, is quite difficult. Because the mind, in its chatter, will go back to its previous habits. It will want to switch back. Lojong is painful. You're going to hold on to your seat. You're going to stay close to the pain because you know this is a good pain, this is a beneficial pain, as opposed to the pain that you had before. The pain that you had before was just pain. The suffering of samsara is just suffering. But this suffering is with a purpose to become a bodhisattva, to become enlightened. But you need to know that. Otherwise, it's like having a boil and you're just squeezing the boil and making more pain and it's not solving the problem of the boil. It's not solving anything. It's just making more pain. So we need to understand the techniques behind the meditations and behind the practice, as opposed to just knowing the practice, not really understanding the practice, and then doing the practice, and you have suffering, and you're adding more suffering to the suffering, and there's no solution. You're just making it worse. So what we usually want to do is avoid the suffering. So we sit on the cushion because we want happiness. I sit down and I think, okay, Buddha, make me happy. Give me the teachings on happiness. And he says, Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering. And so, no. I don't want to hear about that one. Give me happiness, death, impermanence. No. I don't want it. Not that one. Lojong, breathe in the soul. No, I don't want that one. You understand? There's some sort of something going on here. He wasn't political. He wasn't trying to make you happy in the sense of, let me tell you good things so that you stay with us. He had to tell you the mistake that we've been making from beginningless time that has kept us in samsara. So Lojong introduces a different attitude towards unwanted stuff. If it's painful, you become willing not just to endure it, but also to let it awaken your heart and soften you. You need to learn to embrace it. And in the past, we didn't want to embrace the suffering. We wanted to remove the suffering. Just think about, just a little cut, a little pimple. Immediately, you can take paracetamol, you can put a Band-Aid, immediately we want to do something to remove that little suffering. But imagine the biggest suffering, the divorces and the money lost and the job lost and all these sort of things. What do we want to do? Of course, immediately we want to remove them because society says they're the cause of your suffering. We don't remember because we don't know about karma. The Dharma practitioner knows about karma and knows that karma creates the situation. We're not a victim. My actions have created my experience. So in order to purify that negative karma from previous lifetimes, in order to experience a happy future, then Tonglen is the answer. Tonglen is not the problem. Tonglen is the solution. But you need to keep saying this to yourself, because I'm telling you, way back in the back of the mind will be saying, crazy, crazy, crazy. You shouldn't be doing this. You're going to make problems. So where am I up to? Whether it's pain or pleasure, through Lojong practice, we come to have a sense of letting our experience be as it is without trying to manipulate it, push it away, or grasp it. The pleasurable aspects of being human, as well as the painful ones, become the key to awakening Bodhichitta. So the pleasant, as well as the unpleasant, becomes the cause for enlightenment. We're not just focusing on the pleasant, right? Think about it. That's what we've been doing from beginningless time, focusing on the pleasant and grasping onto it, and the unpleasant wanting to push it away. So the karma of wanting to push it away is we can have anger, irritability, hatred, etc. That creates, again, the cause of samsara. I think I have introduced it. Okay. Any problems? Any questions? Yes, Lojong. Lillian does not speak.
Would you advise doing the shamatha, tonglen, and analytical every day?
Would I advise doing shamatha, tonglen, and analytical every day? You mean the three of them?
Yeah, like 10 minutes of each in a half-hour sessions.
I actually think that for people who've not done a lot of practice, where this is fairly new, they don't have a solid meditation practice, I think they actually need to start with shamatha, not analytical. Otherwise, analytical, my experience of teaching it over the years, is if you're doing it in a particular setting, a Dharma environment, where you're doing 3 meditations a day, teachings, your whole mind is really on the Dharma, and you're being held by the Dharma in the retreat experience, then it's okay to do some analytical, some shamatha, single pointed meditation. It's okay to do both. But for those people who are fairly new to this type of practice, who haven't gone deep enough, I think they need to start with single pointed meditation, to sit with themselves instead of sitting with their thoughts going to others. One thing I really used to get concerned about with Tibetan Buddhism was the emphasis on bodhicitta. I know this is a very nice thing to think about, but I found a lot of new people were focusing on helping others, wanting to do things for others, but without knowing anything about themselves and without actually being kind to themselves. It's essential to know who you are, where your mind is going, what your mind is doing, and whether you're unkind to yourself. Because many people are unkind to themselves, which produces unkindness towards others, and then they don't really know why they're unkind towards others, the obstacle to bodhicitta, because a parent's been unkind to them, or they've been bullied when they were a child, etc. So I think, the single-pointed meditation, I have never really emphasized it, but I think over the years I can see more and more now that in these times we need more grounding, more single-pointed meditation, and then you know what you need to meditate on, which brings you to the analytical meditations, which is also Lojong. So I think it's not that, well, we're saying, any minute death can come, but hopefully death doesn't come within the next year, 2 years, 3 years. So if you've got a Dharma plan, my Dharma plan would be, say for 3 months, concentrate on single-pointed meditation to know who and what you are within here, in your own mind. Then with that information, some single-pointed, some analytical, and also some Lojong. But, each person has to decide the balance for themselves. It's like saying to all people, only eat noodles or only eat rice, because I like rice, you should all eat rice, like that. You have to find that balance. If you're talking about food, we understand. Some fruits, some vegetables, we have to find that balance. We have to do the same with these meditations so that you produce a balanced mind. That's the point of the Lamrim meditations. And Lojong is stronger in the sense of the Lamrim led you to this point, and now you're being confronted by your karma. And what are you going to do with your karma? Dharma is an acceleration of karma. Everything really accelerates when you're in the Dharma. You know, stuff really starts to happen. How are you going to deal with it without running away from the Dharma? You need single-pointed meditation to tell you who and what you are. Then you need analytical meditation to bring you back to what you want to be, the Bodhisattva, the enlightened being, benefiting all sentient beings. And then how to do that, Lojong. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any problem?
Again, I have a question.
Yes, my dear.
May I know the Lojong meditations? It means to meditate on the verses, because on the Tonglen we have a specific way about the breathing, and I wondering how to do the Lojong meditations. Thank you.
There's the operating system, if you want to put it in sort of modern language. I think there's the operating system, which is put briefly so that you don't have paragraphs and paragraphs of the text. It will just say, begin with the preliminaries. You need to know what the preliminaries are. And like I said, they are this, 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 this. So those are your meditations within the preliminaries. Then the main practice, as we're going through, then I will explain what the main practice is. And this is based on emptiness. So we have the conventional bodhicitta, and we have the ultimate bodhicitta. So the conventional bodhicitta is Tonglen. The ultimate bodhicitta is the emptiness of Tonglen. We need both. We can't have one or the other to gain enlightenment, to get to the enlightened mind. We need both. The conventional is probably easier because it's something that we work with. The ultimate is a negation, is a taking away of something. Perhaps a taking away of the ego that's meditating on the enlightenment, you know. So in the main practice, the first thing it says is, consider everything as a dream. So this is something to do in your daily life when you're thinking, this is real, this is solid, this exists. What you're being asked to do is let go of that solidity, let go of that idea of it being real, just to let go of it a little bit, that attachment and that grasping, and to think, how do I know I'm awake? You know, to the point where you pinch yourself because you're not quite sure. How do I know I'm awake? Could I be sleeping, dreaming of this? Is it real? So you start checking the reality that we believe in, that we react to, as opposed to maintaining it. So there are things to do, things to meditate on. So there's actually things on the cushion that you take into real life in order to change your view of real life. And I think one of the powerful things is this idea of the dream. You know, in the dream, you can have a tiger or you can have a lion and it's chasing you and you feel really threatened and you're really scared. And then you wake up and then you realize you were so involved in the dream, you thought it was totally real. To think of reality, your life, in the same way. We get so caught up in it. We're so reactive towards it that we forget about emptiness. We forget about how it's all karmic potential, karmic awareness, karma karma is manifesting and we react to it in a negative way, and then we're creating more of the same. And then we think that we're a victim of whatever's happening to us, instead of seeing ourselves as the creator of the life that we want to lead. If you release a little bit, if you let go a little bit, you start having this feeling that you're more of the creator as opposed to the victim. So that's just an example. So there are some things that you would need to do in order to change your mind through the day. There's some things to meditate on, and there are slogans. But all this comes down to, or is leading you to, Tonglen. The actual conventional method, the conventional way of awakening the mind is Tonglen. Then the ultimate method is the emptiness of Tonglen. Because every time we think, okay, I've got it, this is the method to enlightenment. So enlightenment exists, Tonglen exists, suffering exists, compassion exists. You've dug yourself a hole and you've thrown yourself in the hole. You've made a problem for yourself because you think it all exists. So Tonglen is very powerful in that it keeps confronting you. But then you need the emptiness of the confrontation. It doesn't really exist the way you thought. The suffering doesn't really exist the way you thought. Enlightenment doesn't exist the way you thought. So how did you think? Solid, real. You know, when I become enlightened, I'm going to be a Buddha sort of floating up into the air, and I'll be sort of up there somewhere, you know? So we create this sort of Buddha fantasy that isn't real. So hang in there. There's a lot to do. But I think the first point, train in the preliminaries. Train in the preliminaries. Start thinking about when you wake up in the morning, wow, human being with potential, with the potential of enlightenment. But time is passing, impermanence and death. So just for this next couple of weeks until the next teaching, just do that. Waking up, wow, human being, with all the causes and conditions to become enlightened. Impermanence, time is passing, death is coming. I must get on with Dharma. To have that feeling, even before you get out of bed, I must get on with actualizing the Dharma, because countless sentient beings are suffering. They've all been my mother, and they deserve my help. I can't give them help if I'm in samsara. I need to be enlightened in order to give them help. So just for the next couple of weeks, try that. And I'm discussing with my ladies when we can do some meditations. And so I would sit with you, you know, say 3 days a week, and we'd record it for those who don't find that time suitable. So that maybe that will get you started with the sitting meditation. We're sitting on the seat with the pain and the suffering and not running away. And I know that's difficult. In the present time, it's difficult. So that's why I'm saying I would like to help with that, because otherwise I think maybe it's too difficult for people. It's like you visualize yourself as being really ugly. You visualize yourself as being really ugly, but in fact you're really beautiful or handsome. And the meditation puts a mirror in front of you and you get shocked. Just shocked, because it's not what you were thinking. Then you need the group to hold you on the cushion because of the shock. I'm not as nice as I thought, or I'm not as horrible as I thought. Like that. Okay, we will dedicate. Excuse me. So we're dedicating to all sentient beings. May they have all the causes of happiness and none of the causes of suffering. May this happen right now. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all sentient beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the Supreme Jewel Bodhichitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and where it has arisen, may it not diminish, but increase evermore. Shantideva. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored and finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the full-on find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as faith remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. May the spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path and all spiritual friends who practice it have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of Lojong's teachings, dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds, always increase.
Wisdom, light of true compassion, source of Tara's love maternal, Lojong's doctrine perfect holder, we request your life eternal. Teacher, Father, Mother, Guru, we entreat you live forever, guiding all to liberation, perfecting our minds forever, with your always skillful guidance and profound compassionate ways, shining Tara's light eternal, guiding to her Tathagata mind. Om Guru Vajradhara Samanti Vijaya Sarvasiddhi Hum. Om Tari Tutari Chure Guru Samanti Vijaya Ayu Punye Janana Pushtim Kriya Soham.
Thank you very much, everybody, and do your best. See you in 2 weeks, and let's see where we go with this difficult practice. I think difficult, but very good for the Western mind, very good for the Western situation, whether it's West Hong Kong or West England, doesn't matter. But wherever we are, I think the Tonglen practice is a very good one. So you can give me your feedback in 2 weeks, how you're going with the preliminaries. If you're having any problems, you can ask me questions. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, dear again.
Thank
Bye.
Thank you. Dank u wel.
you. Bye bye.
Bye.